Hey guys, it's Kat and I'm back today to do some depotting of my Pat McGrath palettes. I've got 3 large Mothership palettes and 3 smaller 6-pan palettes. Now in my last video I talked about wanting to declutter these because I don't like any of the palettes, but in each palette there's pretty much like a couple of shades that are quite nice that if I had them all in one palette I would probably keep it, but none of these palettes interest me enough, like the whole thing, to want to keep them around and cluttering up my house. So I did some research. I found out that with a bit of effort you can depot these. They're supposed to be quite notoriously hard palettes to depot because they're very, very sturdy plastic. You can't really pull them apart. They're obviously not magnetic palettes, they're glued in. So pretty much what I learnt from doing a little bit of research and finding a video on YouTube is that you need to heat the base of these for a long time with a hairdryer, and then it softens the glue and you sort of try to just pry out the pans with a tool. Supposedly the mattes tend to break quite a lot, but these sort of special shades, being that sort of baked gelée formula, stay together quite well, and they're the shades that I sort of want to keep. So my goal is to create a 10-pan palette just of some special shades. So for example in this one I definitely want to salvage that one. It's a beautiful duochrome. You can see it's pink to gold. I will have the names of the palettes in the description box. They don't have the names on the back, so they're all like Mothership, I think it's 1, 2 and 5 I think it is that I've got the big ones. But yeah, so I'm going to see if I can customize my own palettes to salvage the parts I like about these bigger, bulkier palettes. Another thing that I might try to do as well is create more of a nude palette, like a 6-pan nude palette, using these sort of smaller palettes. So hopefully at the end of this I'll have a 6-pan palette customized and a 10-pan palette customized, and they'll be the only ones I keep. But we'll see how that goes. If I destroy them all, they're all going. It is what it is. Alright, so pretty much all the tools I have here. I've got a hairdryer to heat up the base of the pan and soften the glue. And I've also got various tweezers and tools. So this is like a pointed tweezer. This is more of a flat end. And this is a spatula. So I'm just going to try to like dig out the pans once they're warmed up. And then I also have 2 types of lash glue to stick the pans back in the palettes. I'm doing this all on an old towel because it's going to get messy. There's going to be some broken eyeshadows. If you were precious about the eyeshadows and you didn't want to lose any of them, you can definitely repress any broken ones with a bit of isopropyl alcohol. This is just one that you can get in Australia in the supermarket, and you just put a little bit in and press it down with a tissue or paper towel so it reforms. Let it dry, and if you've pressed it firm enough it should stay in the pan once it's all dry. So that is an option, but I don't really care if I break any today. All right, the palette I'm going to start with, I believe this is the Mothership I Bronze Seduction. What I'm going to do is keep the 4 eyeshadows there. They're the special shades, and I'm going to try to remove all of these 6. So what I'm then going to do is take 6 other shades out of these other 2 palettes and slot them in here. So normally when you're depotting an eyeshadow palette, you can sort of pull apart the palette to get better access to the back of the pans. Since this one is a really thick chunk of plastic, you can't do that. And the video that I saw said to literally heat up the back of the pans with a hairdryer for 5 minutes, and then try to pry out the pans while the glue has softened. Since this is where the special shades are that I'm keeping, I'm just going to heat this corner for now. Alright, that's literally been 2 minutes, but it is getting quite warm. It's very hot down the bottom, and I'm going to see if I can just pull some of these out. If I need to keep it on for another 3 minutes, 5 minutes again, I'll do it again, but I'm getting impatient. I can smell burning as well. So essentially you need to get your tool right on the side of the pan, but there's really not much space. So the thinner your tool, the better. Whoop, just broken that one. Thinner the tool, the better, but I don't really want to go out and get specific tools just for this purpose. So I'm just going to see if I can make do. Yeah, these mats do crumble, and the glue, it's budging but it's not budging enough. Hang on, let me do this on the floor so I'm more stable. So the pans are warm, so clearly a couple of minutes with a hairdryer does get through to the pan and soften the glue, but to sort of start lifting it up, the pans sort of start getting smudged and they do crack the eyeshadow. So I'm just going to quickly get rid of these. If I break all 6, I don't care. The interesting part is if I can get the special eyeshadows out. All right, there we go. Eyeshadows are out. There was quite a few casualties. I'll take you down. Obviously, I wasn't super careful. You can see the big indents I made just to get the pans out. But you can definitely see that the mattes with any like small, that's not small, but any small ding in the pan, they crack. This one completely broke. But you can see that even with some real indents with the shimmers, they tend to stay together. So you can be a lot more careful than I am, but these are going in the bin, so I don't really care. So with this next palette, I only want to keep the green and this duochrome, so I'll heat up this part and I'll try to salvage those two. All right, so these ones don't have the same pan. These are on like a mesh base, so I've got to be quite careful not to squidge them too much. They're already starting to squidge. Oh, maybe I'll do a test run on this one that I don't want to keep. Now, how does that work? Okay, right under there, there's some plastic. Okay, test run on this one as well. Hook the plastic. Oh, there we go. So you can do it. All right, so you got to get right underneath. Let's push that one back. Right underneath. This little hook part on this tool has been really handy to get right in there. Hook the plastic and pop out. Yay! Jumped out. A little bit warped, but you can sort of push that back into place. This is really warm right now, so they're quite malleable, but that's one. And I want to keep the green as well, so let's do a little pop. There we go. Oh, that one broke. There we go. All right, this one's broken, but I feel like if I press it down firmly enough, or if I put a little bit of lash glue, it might stick back to the mesh, so I'll do that later. And same goes for this palette. I just want to keep those 4 shades, so we'll see if we can salvage them. Let's pop out some special shades. There's already a dent up in this corner, so let's go in there, right down to the bottom and hook it up. Got it. Pop. So those were all pretty easy to get out. You can see that getting them out, there's some sort of lifting, but because these are that sort of almost moussey gelée texture, you can sort of just reform them and they will act fine. So that's pretty handy. You'll see that looks like there's eyeshadow left. That's actually just the glue underneath the pan. So it's this silicone type glue. So some of them came out with the glue on the base, which you just peel off, and others came out nice and clean. All right, now that I have the 6 eyeshadows that I want to put in here, I'm going to clean this up. I'm going to clean my hands and we'll start popping them in with some lash glue. All right, so I did a little bit of a clean. These bits of glue from under the pan, I couldn't really get off, so I just wiped it down with some isopropyl alcohol. What I'm going to do with this broken shade that is loose off the mesh is I'm going to just put quite a lot of lash glue underneath it so it adheres to the base. And the reason why I'm using lash glue is because this is a mesh, so the glue is going to touch the eyeshadows. I want the glue to be eye safe, and knowing that lash glue is eye safe, that's why I'm using it. If it was a metal pan, you can use pretty much any glue, but because it is directly touching the eyeshadows and can permeate throughout the eyeshadow, you want something eye safe. Admittedly, it'd be so much easier if you had something in a tube, so like a duo lash glue that you can just sort of squeeze out. I don't have any of that at the moment, so I'm just using whatever I have in my stash. This is a black glue, but it doesn't really matter. All right, now I'm just going to pop that in one of the pans. And I'm going to do the same with all of these, and I'll be back to show you the final palette. All right, so now I have a full 10 pan palette of only special shades. So the sort of sparkly duochromes, the sort of topper shades, and these 3 metallic beautiful formulas here. I will do an insert with hopefully better lighting so you can see the colors, and also some arm swatches. But now let's get to destroying the small palettes. All right, so after a bit of swatching, I've decided I'm just going to modify this palette here. I really like these 2 shades. I quite like this shade. It is a duochrome, so you can see in the mirror it looks kind of gold. And I'm going to keep the mattes because I know that they're hard to remove, and I like a palette to have a couple of mattes. So I'm keeping this area, but I want to change these out. This is a really sort of dull green. It's not as nice as the one I've kept in the special palette. And this shade is this sort of red based gold, which I don't use too often. So I've got this cooler tone palette and this warmer tone palette, and after doing a little bit of a swatchy and figuring things out, I've decided I want to add these 2 shades into that last palette. So since this is cardboard with a plastic base, I'm going to see if I can actually just pull this out. It makes things so much easier. You don't have to heat through all the plastic. So now I just have to heat the back of the pan directly, which is what you normally do when you depot eyeshadows. So it's a lot easier to do. You can also just put this over a candle, or often people use like a hair straightener and it just sort of melts the back. You poke it out with a pin. It makes things a lot easier. So what I'm going to try to do here is heat the back of these 2 shades and then push them out when this plastic is really soft. All right, this plastic is still very thick, so I think I'm going to have to do a little bit of, can I bend it, break it? Oh, I'm getting somewhere, hang on. Oh, it's bending because it's warm, so I can get in there and pop it out. So if you are okay with destroying the packaging of these 6 pan palettes, they're a lot easier to get out without damaging the pan. So it'd probably be easier to get out the mattes as well. By warming the plastic and then warping the plastic, and you can just pop these out. Now, because I don't want to damage this packaging, because that's what I'm going to be keeping, I'm just going to heat the top of the pan for a little bit. I don't want to like burn the cardboard or anything. So just to soften it up so I can gouge these out. If these are damaged, I don't really mind. Oh, that was actually pretty easy. That was a lot easier than the bigger palettes. And again, I'm just going to put some lash glue on the back of these pans. You could just use legitimate glue for these metal pans, but this is here right now. All right, and that is the new tweaked mini palette. All right, so that's the end of this customizing video. Hopefully that was helpful to people that wanted to customize their own Pat McGrath palette. And to all the people that are watching this raging that I've just destroyed Pat McGrath palettes, look, I've had these for years, I don't use them, so I may as well condense them to things that I do use and appreciate. So if you don't like that, I don't care. Sorry. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.